Hey everyone, welcome back to Your Brain On, a series that I'm trying to get off the ground. Hopefully the producers give me funding after this one, but a show where we analyze an artist's lyrical content and attempt to reach conclusions on the general philosophy and ethos that fuels the art that they create. I want to talk about Guardin in today's episode for a couple different reasons, but primarily one of the biggest ones being that in his lengthy and persisting presence in underground music, across hundreds of songs, he has remained incredibly consistent. He's a pretty great example of an artist knowing what they want to achieve with their music and uncompromisingly going for it. Consistently pushing out emo and emo adjacent hits that manage to stay fresh with other eclectic sounds being worked into the mix. But sonic consistency aside, his writing style has been pretty compelling to me, and over the years I have heard an overarching mentality be fine-tuned and refined and tweaked to reach this sort of maximum efficiency on emotional catharsis. Because the key to Guardin's music and the key to his longevity are in his lyrics, as he has built his sound to embody a sort of consolidated approach to expressing the most visceral emotions in a way that is accessible and relatable even in its most personal and specific moments. Because when you operate in this area of music, I guess being emo music, this emotional catharsis and relatability is a lot of what fuels the engagement with it. Guardin's audience is hearing him croon raw vulnerability, and that resonates. And before I get too ahead of myself as we dive into the 3 songs that I have picked for today, as per the last episode, we'll establish a bit of a quick context for the uneducated. Although I question the purpose of this segment, because I don't know how many people are watching this who are just like, yeah, Guardin, I have no fucking clue, but I'll watch a lyrical analysis of the 3 random songs of his. But hey, the suits upstairs are really who make the big decisions. You know, I'm just a lowly creative. The producers are really who makes these decisions. Guardin is a New York-born artist who makes music that most people can generally agree upon to fit neatly within the emo rap label. He was making primarily chiptune and lo-fi electronic-inspired instrumental music in the first half of a rather tumultuous 2010s decade, but eventually shifted towards a hip-hop-inspired emo sound, eventually becoming one of the dominant names associated with a specific facet of the emo underground movement, specifically happening in the SoundCloud scene, along with artists like Ninetales, Convey, Kishi Highwaters, etc., you know the deal. Numerically, his most notable track would be I Think You're Really Cool, which right now sits comfortably a little under 100 million plays on Spotify. Talk about breaking out. In the years since his initial vocal tracks, he continues to refine this emo sound and instill confidence in ex-scene kids and emotional dissidents alike, myself included. Anyways, let's talk about some music.
They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel. The voices in my head say I don't think I'm real. They don't wanna talk, they don't wanna feel. The voices in my head say I don't think I'm.
We'll start with Demons in My Orbit, not only to have our songs establish a bit of a loose timeline, but also because this song is comparatively taking place in a significantly more bleak and desolate era of Guardin's music. This is during a time period where emo rap is unabashedly raw in its depictions of emotional states, utilizing the subtlety of a nuclear bomb to translate its message. Essentially, in 2017, emo music was lyrically visceral, not pulling any punches with its descriptions of emotional destitution, cracking mental stability, suicidal ideation. And Demons in My Orbit adheres to the genre conventions of the time as well, and is one of my favorite songs to come out of this era of rap. The spoken intro, and ones of this nature were pretty common for the time, sets the precedent for the track in a pretty blunt fashion, describing an inability to achieve this sort of self-acceptance. It's fractured and melodramatic, but it is real. The repetitious chorus instills a bleak drone to the listener, repeating this sort of anti-mantra that reflects Guardin's overwhelming sense of hopelessness in the situation. And this is where the first important lyrical motif sort of comes into play, and why songs like Demons in My Orbit can be so depressing and distressing, but still so comforting. The repeated I don't think I'm real in this chorus acts as a sort of subversive anti-anthem. It's not meant to make you pity Guardin, it is the centerpiece of this collective cry of sympathy. There is comfort for the listener in this painful chant because of its relatability. And due to its repetition, it kind of becomes an anthem in that way. The song is set up in a chorus-verse-chorus structure, so Guardin kind of pours out everything he can in between this weary drone. I don't know where my head's been at, and I've been feeling like a nuisance just because of that, is this sort of guilt and being aimless. Guardin feeling that him being without direction or guidance is an annoyance because he can't seem to get his head screwed on right, reflecting this shared mentality of I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Suicidal ideation is scattered throughout this song with lines like "the pain won't go away till my brain goes flat," "grab the 9, grip the trigger, this my suicide letter." It all feels kind of aimless, Guardin trying to find footing in space, no friction or solid ground to take hold of. I think this song sort of works as this anthem of youth, even if his songwriting with time has reached a more matured point where he approaches emotional lyricism with a bit more nuance, because of how straightforward it is. Lyrically, Guardin isn't concerned with marketability or even really the resulting relatability that it achieves. It's all pretty specifically personal. But in these early struggling emotional developments, he crafts a lyrical style that is upfront and bleak.
Hey Hollywood, would your people ever like me? Misunderstood is all I ever might be.
I really didn't want 2 of the 3 songs in this video to be 4+ years old, and I promise that I will talk about his more recent stuff in a little bit here, but in terms of lyrical impact, I do feel like this one's pretty important. Yeah, his lyrical content and style have definitely been altered and refined significantly since 2019, and I know that the emotions depicted in these earlier tracks may not be applicable today, but this song provides an interesting and rare perspective in music that I really don't want to overlook, so just bear with me here. Because all I ever might be is a personal meditation on the weight of success and the detrimental and unintentional side effects that creep in as a result of chasing a dream and turning your passion into a career. And Guardin somberly guides us through this meditation of his with a perspective uncommonly shared in such an upfront way. This is him questioning the integrity and the worth of the very thing that you're listening to. It's a song saying, fuck, this might not be working out as planned, and that's terrifying. The opening excerpt is from an interview from the Where Are All My Friends podcast, and it does a pretty efficient job of establishing the context that explains why the following situation that Guardin is about to rap about is so dire. Guardin says that the only job he has had other than music was working overnight shifts in a hospital as a janitor, and since then music has really been the only sort of occupational stability that he's had. Which, as you can imagine, leads to an environment in which creating art is difficult due to a reliance of it being your only means of income and you being an independent artist. It kind of feels a little isolating in a way. The opening lines are unique because he's admitting to having lied about this upcoming project being finished, a bit of a fourth wall break, if you will. I can't think of many other times that a situation such as this has been so directly discussed in an artist's music, continuing this overarching motif of open vulnerability in Guardin songs. This sort of admission of guilt is a direct reflection of this need to perform and satisfy. In this moment, Guardin is overwhelmed by this need to cater to a demanding audience. When's the project coming out? Just to get them to stop breathing down his neck, even if only for a minute. Trying to create music as he's in the middle of moving, being away from family, questioning the integrity of his relationships, dealing with shallow criticisms that stem from parasocial relationships, abstracted expectations of being a somewhat notable online figure. Most people would say, well, damn, how is anyone supposed to work under these conditions? But in this situation, it's a bit of a catch-22 because these mentally degrading things are what fuels his work. He's stuck in the middle of having to be performative for a misunderstanding crowd while constantly walking a tightrope of financial stability. I guess it's a bit of a love-hate relationship in a way, an upfront conversation that he gets to have with his audience. It's like a musical state of the union in a way. The lyrical content lends itself to being a sort of a update rather than a traditionally structured song. Since its release, I really haven't heard many songs like it, and it kind of feels haunting in a way, like a reminder of the unique pressure that an underground scene can sometimes invoke, especially in emo artists.
Shooting like a star. Yeah, your planet ain't that far. You'll be home by Monday. You'll be home by Monday.
I want to end this video with Monday, not only because it's my favorite song that Guardin has made, but also because it feels like the culmination of his increasing maturity as a songwriter. This is the result of years of effort and emotion, and it is truly Guardin in top form. I could go on and on about the actual sound of this song. It's so stylish and punchy, but this is a lyric series, so I will refrain from it. I will keep control of myself. But this song, just know this song sounds fucking awesome. Not only is the hip hop influence on this song a vessel for him to present an intelligent and phonetically satisfying series of rhymes, but the structure lends itself to being a little more open-ended for Guardin to say what he wants to say on the track. Like I said, it's a mature approach that I feel wraps up so many things that Guardin has sung and meditated about over the years, and it feels like a bit of a grand statement that helps bring finality to a lot of trauma, addressing and then conquering in an aggressive and committed way. The first verse is Guardin sort of observing what it took to get to this point in his career, in his music. Once again, this repeating motif of being self-referential and lyrically concentric, living within itself. The recognition of the passage of time and the increasing acceptance that although things have been tumultuous and uncertain, in a way he's kind of made it. He has so far escaped the worst potential consequences of his previous emotions and strikes down on them with a sort of vindictive anger. And despite the song being a heavy and seemingly necessary addressing of trauma and consequence, the chorus creates a bit of a nuanced dynamic with how comforting and affirming it is. Even if you feel ostracized or outcasted, the mosaic of experience that makes up you is unique. Despite everything that's happened, they've never seen him fall. The second verse holds a tight grip on the past, attempting to understand and then cope with the trauma that defined Guardin's formative years. Mental scars weigh heavy on him, stuck in this dichotomy of acknowledgement and then willful forgetfulness. The second verse has some of the most painfully vulnerable lyricism that Guardin has ever provided, but as I keep hammering in, it comes from a matured perspective, an adult who, although has not healed, is able to view trauma through a somewhat, at least kind of untainted lens. This verse is some of his best songwriting to date. The song sort of ends with a split mentality in its third verse. It feels introspective and as if it comes from a place of growth, but this described reluctance to be vulnerable, maintain relationships, and this still unknown cause of some of the current problems kind of leaves it a little bit open-ended in a way. And this lack of definitive conclusion is why Guardin's relatability is once again his biggest strength. Because it is open-ended and uncertain, it is an accurate reflection of how life really is. Instead of naive embellishments or naive it'll be okay grand messages, it's a haunting yet sort of comforting uncertainty. No emotions are permanent, and the whole being alive thing is a constantly changing process. Guardin understands this at a core level, and through his own vulnerability provides a mirror to see yourself in. That's going to do it for this episode of Your Brain On. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I would love to hear your interpretations of these three songs and Guardin's greater discography as a whole. I have a lot of fun making these videos because I really value songwriting, and I think that Guardin has done a really good job of consistently being one of the best emo rap songwriters out there. As I mentioned earlier, I know that I didn't really talk about three super recent songs, but I think one of the biggest strengths and one of the most important things that I've noticed in Guardin's discography is how much his approach to it has grown. I feel like in that 2017 era, everything was really, like I said, melodramatic, very bleak, very aggressively depressing. And I feel like over time, he has sort of spearheaded this shift in writing style that is, like I said with Monday, just more matured in a way. I think that'll do it. Like I said, let me know your thoughts, and let me know the artists that you guys want to talk about for the next episode. This is a lot of fun for me to do, so even if they don't get as many views as the other videos, I'd like to keep doing it. I'm having fun. Until next time, I've been Mel Mij, and you've been great. Bye.